Hello and welcome. I'm Master Lama Rasaji, and this is our Friday Shangri-La edition of Rasaji Speaks. We do have training today. Would love to invite you to stop by and check it out. For less than 50 cents a day, you can get some phenomenal training. Today's lesson for our Shangri-La Friday is John the Beloved, a disciple of journey of love. See a little bit what scripture says about John. John wrote his gospels to convince people that Jesus was the Messiah. But the gospels also strengthened the faith of those who already knew that Jesus was. John emphasized that Jesus had a unique ability to give eternal life, something only God has the authority to do so, since he was one with the Father, that could happen. Jesus was to teach people that life was a continuum, whether you dropped a body or not, that you still continue to live. This was like a new concept, pretty much, to the Jewish faith of the time. He also introduced people that this concept of being born again, or that you could have a new life in you. And of course, that was what they both had experienced in the Far East. Of course, the most famous that most people think about with John is chapter 3:16. For God so loved the world that he gave his own one and only Son, that he who believes in him should not perish, but have eternal life. People think that's an individual, and that's okay for you to say so. I mean, even a pious Christian, especially a pious Catholic Christian, can honor that. Amazing what they transform. I think Annalene Scarron was a good example of that. She wasn't Catholic, she was Mormon. She saw him as the only son. And because of her pious faith and belief, she began to experience the same things that Jesus did: transfiguration, healing the sick, raising the dead. Sometimes the semantics kind of get in the way. What the city yogas teach and the metaphysics, that this Christ, the sonship in itself, this golden light that comes from the Father, that can create the eternal body, this golden body that the Taoists referred to, is a Christ consciousness. One with this consciousness gives that messianic concept. But in that day, you can't really talk about that. It was a different time 2,000 years ago. So John says, I saw him grow from grace to grace. And that statement is a transformative statement. The church, a lot of people would have you believe that as powerful as the nativity that saved humanity was, Jesus was not full of realization as a child of his divinity. That really came on the journey to the Mideast and the Far East. What made this profound was a couple of things, and John the Beloved was at the root of that. During these journeys, as Jesus starts to realize who he is, at the same time, John the Beloved is realizing who he is. And once they approach Tibet, John recognizes the incarnation of Boganathar. John's also a little bit confused at that time because of this warrior spirit that he was. And he knew that he was supposed to watched Jesus's back, and he was being trained and renewed for that. But as he watched these amazing things and watched this development, transformation that Jesus was going through, he knew in that incarnation that the heart of Jesus was the most significant thing that he was going to learn. How did this man that saw people doing little to nothing, how could he still have compassion for these people? How could he have the patience of Job when people sinned after sin after sin and kept on sinning? How could he still love the sinner? Well, as you know, in Tibet, the concept of sin means one who falls short. Most of us fall short every day, or at least weekly, right? To pick ourselves up and do again. The siddhanas are very important. The principle of penance that John the Baptist, his cousin, talked about, when you should fall short of the good word and the newness to come, renew unto repentance, is what St. Paul teaches us in Hebrews. There was a good concept there. No matter what, we could start all over. The Buddha himself, Ouyang, the Buddha, Lahir Mahase, or whoever you wish to call him, it was start again, start over, begin anew, was the element of enlightenment. When you get to the root of that, is that not the same concept of forgiveness? John began to develop the heart of Jesus. Along the way in that incarnation, he starts to not only realize about Bhoganathar's incarnation, he realizes about Hanuman, he realizes about Patanjali, he starts to realize the Krishna incarnation, all of this, all the power, all the influence that he could have. There's a saying in scriptures, though I have all the powers of all the kingdoms of heaven and earth and authorities over all of the world, I can say to that mountain, move here or yonder. But if I don't have the ability to love, everything that I do is just tinkling cymbals of brass. John the Beloved knew that. It was the heart of Jesus that was being demonstrated by Jesus himself that was extremely so important. Because the power of love, the ability to love, is what really transforms the world. As I was coming down on the mountain for my first 45-day renewal, how long and how often, Boyang, Lama Ji, should I practice the teachings of Tai Chi Gung? Until a little Lama, you can learn to love unconditionally 24/7. For my son, practicing Tai Chi Gung is the preparation for the love that Jesus already knew, was already demonstrating. That is what made Jesus the messianic consciousness, the living Christ, the true Christos in the example. So all along, and this is why in this lifetime, there's so much impact from the Divine Mother and us to bring forth and teach people about the heart of Jesus. There's no greater pathway than what we're doing right here, right now. And you should seriously consider being a part of that if you understand the truth that's coming from the words of the Lama. Baraka Bashide. May the blessings be to you and to your glorious family. I look forward to you. I know you had a happy Christmas. We did too. A happy nativity. But now it's time to begin to release the sting of the dragon to move into the focus of the snake. For 2025, we will arrive alive in 25. God bless you and see you tomorrow on Saturday's edition of Rasaji Speaks. God bless you all.